Welcome back. One thing that I do want to talk to people about who might be looking at getting a rabbit or might have gotten a rabbit, watch them around decals slash stickers that are also magnets. So I needed to order a new flames, and you would think I'd have tons of flames in this size. Nope, that's the one. That's the one. And so I had to make a quick order off of Amazon while we're getting ready to go and all that. But I just didn't need to make sure that I have it before the season gets started, or maybe before season previews. I don't really need it for season previews. All right, so we're into the 1996 through 2010 portion of this look back at the draft and looking at draft steals. So from 96 to 2010, we're good. One per draft, of course. And we start with the New York Islanders. I also want to mention this is a jersey that a subscriber sent that I did feature in a video prior, but I wanted to feature it again. I like it as the Milwaukee third jersey, and Nashville does feature in this video. So drafting 56th overall in 1996, the Islanders draft Zdeno Chara. Now, the problem the Islanders had was that Mike Milbury, as a GM, was not great with asset management when it came to trades. Not the best when it came to trades, and I've done videos on that. Chara is one of those that took a little while to develop, but once he developed in Ottawa and then in Boston, he was pretty good. Chara, yeah, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame as soon as he's eligible, and yeah, absolute beast on skates. I'm glad I got to see him play in person, so I could see just how massive he had and how good he was too. 1997 was a little bit more difficult, so I decided to go for somebody who I guess qualifies as obscure compared to everybody else on the board, but I'm going with Andrew Ference. Again, you guys can go through and pick out other names if you want, and guys that you feel were really big steals from the draft. Ference was a good defenseman, played a long time in the NHL. I liked Ference, and I'm pretty sure he was still playing when the channel started up, and I would talk about Ference here and there. So there you go. I'm talking about Andrew Ference again in 2024. Now we get into the Detroit portion as we get to 1998. And again, their European scouting was absolutely on point. When drafting 171st overall, you can draft Pavel Datsyuk. Pavel Datsyuk, to me, is right up there with guys like Patrice Bergeron. Now we got Sasha Barkov in terms of being an all-around player and good in every area of the game. And so getting him 171st overall, that's some excellent scouting. And again, this is why, look at this. This is two Europeans already. This shouldn't happen in today or in this day and age the way that it did back then. And Detroit was ahead of the game. They stayed ahead of the game in 1999. And I was talking about 1999 in the video earlier, of course, where I was doing 81 through 95 and saying, oh, I don't know what I'm going to get for 99 because I'm old. So I forget, like I just did a video on the 2000 or the 1999 draft and drafted at 210th in that draft. Maybe the best player in that draft. That's a debate we can have. Sure. Henrik Zetterberg. Zetterberg, fantastic career in Detroit. Datsyuk, fantastic career in Detroit. And this is how you end up staying at the top, even though you've been at the top for a while. So I've talked about how, getting those first round draft picks is great, but getting the draft picks outside the first round is really important. When you're running a really successful franchise that's at or near the top of the league, those steals later in the draft can do a great job of keeping you up there and keeping you near the top of the league. So Zetterberg, fantastic in that regard for the Detroit Red Wings. For the year 2000, it's where the Rangers show up on the board. And it's a number 205 pick. And it's a Henrik as well. I could just write that. People are like, I know exactly who he's talking about. But I'll write the full name because it'd be weird if I didn't. Henrik Lundqvist. Fantastic goaltender. So the first five so far, we've got a European and a North American defenseman, European goaltender. So really, really solid move by the New York Rangers drafting Henrik Lundqvist. He came that close to winning a Stanley Cup back in 2014. In the end, he's one of the best goaltenders I've ever watched who didn't win a Stanley Cup. but still, Hall of Famer, absolutely, and fantastic track record in the National Hockey League. For 2001, it's a Buffalo pick for 2001. The number 55 pick that year, Jason Pominville, who, again, I like Pominville. I think he's a good player. And again, taken at 55, that's a pretty good spot to get a player who ends up being a really good top six forward, good goal scorer. I think he's a good all-around player. So at number 55, Buffalo got themselves quite the deal. 2002. We're going to Chicago for this one. It's the number 54 pick. So 54, 55, and 56 are all represented on the board. And Chicago, Duncan Keith. Another example of, yes, Taves, Kane, huge parts of that team that became a dynasty or dynasty light. Not technically a dynasty, but 3 cups in 6 years is close to it. And Duncan Keith being taken 54th overall ends up being an excellent defenseman in the National Hockey League. And another one that is definitely headed for the Hall of Fame. In fact, Hall of Fame. I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these guys out of 7 are Hall of Famers. So, not bad. Pominville and Ference, I don't see in the Hall of Fame. But Pominville would be in the Hall of Very Good. I think if you had that. I don't know that it'd be as popular as a Hall of Fame. Because we hear that, right? A lot of, well, the Hall of Very Good. Why don't we have a Hall of Very Good? I think that'd be really awesome. Anyways, before I get too distracted, 2003... and drafted 205th. So that's weird that there's 205th draft picks. But San Jose drafts Joe Pavelski, who, of course, just retired, and shows just how deep the 2003 draft is. When I did the redraft of 2003, it was absolutely insane. The only draft that I think might threaten that one is 2015. I feel like the 2015 draft we could look back on and say, that draft was absolutely stacked. But 2003, Joe Pavelski at 205th. Yeah, San Jose did some good scouting there. Next up is Nashville in 2004. Drafting 258th. And, Pekka Rinne. He's just too good right now, right? So... Rinne, 13 years before that phrase is coined with his name on it back in 2017. Pekka Rinne, drafted 258th overall by Nashville. A team that's been very good at drafting goaltenders and very good at finding value when it comes to the goaltenders that they've drafted and developed. Rinne being one, Saros being another. They're very good with goaltenders. Even when they committed the league and Mike Dunham was their starter, that was a pretty good pick on their part. Another goaltender shows up in 2005, but it is not a European goaltender. I could just put the logo up here and go, yeah, it's a goaltender, and people are like, we know who it is, because of course. So 2005, drafted 72nd overall was Jonathan Quick. I think he would have gone higher than that in a redraft. I know I've done a 2005 redraft. I know I have. I've been looking through every year to figure out which ones I hadn't touched. That's why 89 threw me off, where I was like, I haven't done 89, so I had to do that. But, Jonathan Quick in 2005 drafted 72nd overall. 2 Stanley Cup wins. I still say the 2012 run by Jonathan Quick was the most impressive run I've seen a goaltender go on in the playoffs. So, yeah, number 72. Pretty smart scouting. 2006. So this is a first-round draft pick, but going by my rules from the last one, it's a number 22 pick, meaning it would not have been a first-round draft pick back in, say, the 80s, because there were only 21 teams. So number 22 was Claude Giroux, and Bobby Clark stumbled to try to say the name, but ends up being an excellent draft pick. So that's part of the reason that goes viral. If Claude Giroux ended up not being an NHL player, it'd be kind of a cute little... But the fact that the GM goes up there and tries to announce the player and can't say it, it was great. Giroux ends up being an excellent player. So if you can't say the player's name, but you know to draft the right guy, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You got the player. It's not like you go up to the podium and go, I can't pronounce the name. Well, you forfeit the pick, then get off. They'll come up and draft him. They know how to say it. 2007. Dallas comes up on the board now. drafting 129th, Jamie Benn. So the captain of the Dallas Stars, who at his peak was one of the best scorers in the National Hockey League and very remarkably consistent. He's not at that level now, but he's still a pretty good player for them. His contract's really high, so that's one thing that gets discussed with Ben. But the fact that he was drafted 129th by Dallas, that to me qualifies as a steal. And so Dallas gets that spot on the board for the year 2007. 2008, roll back to Nashville. And not a really late pick, but the fact that Roman Josi is drafted 38th overall by Nashville, that's remarkable. Nashville has developed so many good defensemen since their inception, since joining the National Hockey League. They seem to have a great knack for developing defensemen and knowing which ones to draft. And sometimes it's numbers, too. They just have a lot of really good defensemen. We see those defensemen go on to have pretty good careers elsewhere, too. So, yeah, Josi's been excellent, one of the best defensemen on the team in their history, and that's a history that includes guys like Shea Weber, Ryan Suter, Ryan Ellis. There's a lot of really good defensemen who have gone through Nashville. 2009. And I remember this one because I really wanted the Canucks to draft him, and it didn't happen. It's Ryan O'Reilly. Ryan O'Reilly drafted 33rd overall by Colorado. He's bounced around the league a bit since then, but that being said, he's bounced around the league a bit because he's in demand. He had quite the bounce-back season with Nashville this past season. Showed he's still got it. We'll see what he does this year for Nashville. But for me, looking back at 2009, that's the steal of that draft. Which brings us to 2010. And I almost missed this one. Almost. I was getting ready to write down a different name, and I was like, wait a minute. And so I found him, which is good. So Mark Stone's drafted 178th overall by the Ottawa Senators. And when he was in Ottawa, I always felt like he was underrated. Then he goes to Vegas and everybody realizes how good he is. And now he's known for LTIR, which I think is a shame because he is an excellent two-way forward, really, really smart player. And yeah, I have no complaints about Mark Stone's game at all. I think he's an excellent one. And hopefully he doesn't end up back on LTIR. I don't see any reason why he would. Vegas isn't over the cap as I'm recording this anyways. Leonard goes on LTIR. They're fine. But Mark Stone, captain now of the Vegas Golden Knights, I think getting the accolades that I wish he'd gotten when he was in Ottawa, but better late than never. So there you go. The draft picks from 1996 through 2010, a Milwaukee Admirals jersey, and a cautionary tale about making sure the Magnets aren't within reach of the Rabbits. I've been very good at that for years, of keeping it away from the Rabbits, and just one momentary whoops, and Cinnabon jumped on that. Or Licorice. It could have been Licorice that did it, but probably Cinnabon, because she likes to go after the Magnets when she thinks she has a chance at them. And don't make a game out of something. Don't make a game out of something like that with the Rabbits. They enjoy that. Anyways, there you go. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And let me know from these drafts which player you think was a really notable or really big steal in that draft. And it could be anything, again, from 22 and down. In my eyes, because the late 20s, you're looking at some pretty darn good players. But let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.